An action of seminarians. You know what a seminarian is?
No.
Someone who is studying to be a religious pastor, preacher. They're in seminary school. So researchers, Darley and Bateson in 1973, met with a group of seminarians and reviewed the Good Samaritan parable from the New Testament. Do you know the Good Samaritan parable?
Yes.
You know that it exists anyway. You might not remember exactly what it is. Do you know? Okay, tell her what about the Good Samaritan.
Доброго самаритянина.
О, самаритянина.
Про доброго самаритянина в Біблії написано. Шариш чи розказуєш? Про те, що
Masha, are you on
добрий
the same page
самаритянин,
with this?
який був дуже крутий.
Do you know the Good Samaritan
І
parable?
побачив, купити людину нічого не зробив, вийшов бандит, яких чи хто знає. Так, а потім що звичайно
She knows what we're talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I'm thinking about
Він
this.
заходить по них.
All right. Oh, you're thinking about what's in the parable. All right. So here we go. So each seminarian was then asked to prepare a short talk on that biblical theme. And then, after they did that, walk to a nearby building to present their talk at a scheduled time. Along the way, the researchers placed a moaning, slumped-over man. Would the context in which a given seminarian encountered the troubled man shape the way the man occurred for the seminarians, and would their actions be correlated with that occurring? I know that's a little tough. Okay. So even after just having heard the Good Samaritan parable, if they needed to hurry to get to their talk on time, only 10% of the seminarians stopped to help. In contrast, 63% of the seminarians stopped to help when they believed they could do so and still get to their talk by the scheduled time. The context that uses seminarians, in that it shaped the way what was present occurred for them, and their way of being and their actions were correlated in which the way what was presented occurred for them. Okay. So from Malcolm Gladwells, his book on tipping point, what this study is suggesting, in other words, is that the convictions of your heart, the actual contents of your thoughts, are less important in the end in guiding your actions than the immediate context of your behavior. In other words, "Oh, you're late" had the effect of making someone who is ordinarily compassionate, a seminarian, right, into someone who is indifferent to suffering, of turning someone in that particular moment into a different person having a different way of being. The context is decisive in determining one's way of being and one's actions. The context used the seminarians in that it shaped their being and actions. How much time do we have left? 40 minutes, okay. Here's the time things. All right. So here's yet another example. Crime in New York City subways. In 1984, Bernard Goetz, while riding in the New York City subway, shot 4 teenagers who demanded $5 from him. When asked why he did it, Goetz said, "They tried to rip me off." The New York Post ran the pictures of the white gunman and one of his black victims on the front page with the headline, "Led away in cuffs while wounded mugger walks to freedom." Regarded as a hero by many frustrated New York citizens, Goetz was easily acquitted when tried. Gladwell points out, this was New York City in the 1980s. The dimly lit platform was surrounded by graffiti-covered walls. and serviced by trains that would be late due to over 500 red tape areas that were damaged tracks, made it impossible to go over 15 miles an hour. If you rode the subway system in those days, you were sure to be harassed by panhandlers and petty criminals. Also in 1984, David Gunn was hired as the new subway director. Gunn was strongly advised to start by cleaning up the crime. However, guided by what is known as the broken windows theory, Gunn drew up goals and timetables to clean up the graffiti. Once a train was clean, his rule was that if it was vandalized again, it would not be allowed back in service until it was cleaned. Gladwell commenting on the broken windows theory. So this is the theory. If a window is broken and left unrepaired, people walking by will conclude that no one cares and no one is in charge. Over the next decade, the New York City officials began to see themselves differently. They were in charge. They started to make arrests, putting into fare beating, broken windows, etc. This shift in the context was using the officials, resulted in a shift in their way of being and the actions they took. By the end of the decade of the 1990s, there were 75% fewer felonies. You know what a felony is? That's a crime in which over, it used to be $50, it might be $500, but there's a certain amount that if the crime involves that, it's a felony, otherwise it's petty, called petty. And if you have a felony, it goes on your police record. Anybody can look up your police record and see that, you know, you're what they call a felon, and it makes it difficult to get a job or anything. But it has, yeah, I know. But it has to be over a certain amount, like $50 or $500. I forget what it is right now. I mean, assault with a weapon is a felony, obviously. Okay. No money's involved, but that's a felonious crime, assault with a weapon. You know what? A gun or a knife. Assault and battery, you assault somebody and you beat them up, that can be a felony. Alright, so the crime rate on the New York City subways plummeted much faster than the national average. As Gladwell reports, it is hard to imagine that only 10 years after Bernard Goetz shot 4 teenagers and was acquitted, it was simply inconceivable that someone could pull a gun on someone else in the subway and be called a hero for it. So it was the power of a context to use you. Many theories say crime is a function of stunted psychological development, our genetic predispositions to violence, our bad parenting, or poverty. However, as Gladwell reports, in the years between the beginning and the middle of the 1990s, New York City did not get a population transplant. Nobody went out into the streets and successfully taught every would-be delinquent the distinction between right and wrong. There were just as many psychologically damaged people, criminally inclined people, living in the city at the peak of the crime wave as in the trough. But for some reason, tens of thousands of those people suddenly stopped committing crimes. How did that happen? The answer lies in the power of context. What constitutes a context? A context through which you perceive a situation, other person, or group of people can be constituted by your worldview. You will remember from your pre-course reading that your worldview model of reality refers to your network of unexamined ideas, beliefs, biases, prejudices, social and cultural embeddedness, and taken for granted assumptions through which you interpret the world, other people, and yourself. So you actually experience that when you set aside your judgments and evaluations, right? That was your worldview. And you set that aside. You set aside your prejudices, your bias, your belief, right? You set aside all of that. And you listen for the contribution. Remember that course experiment? That context gave you a different world and different actions. Some of you interacted with people and spoke to people that you wouldn't normally, right? So you shifted, that's an example. You shifted the context that used you. With me? Alright. Alternatively, or in combination with your worldview, the context through which you perceive a situation, other person, or group of people can be constituted by your frame of reference, mindset, for that type of situation, or for a given person, or for a given group of people, or given entity. Again, you will remember from your pre-course reading that frame of reference refers to a network of unexamined ideas, beliefs, biases, prejudice, decisions or conclusions made, social and cultural embeddedness, and taken for granted assumptions through which you interpret a given specific something in your world. Finally, the context through which you perceive a situation, other person, group of people, or entity can be constituted by one or more situational specific factors. For example, if you're going to be tested on what you read, your context for it is almost certainly different than if you're simply reading for the information or for entertainment. Okay. All right, so 2:45. Okay. We have about 15 more to go in the next section. What in your way of being and acting is not colored or shaped by some context? Will you write that down and inquire into that between now and the next time? This will be your homework, to see what of your way of being and acting is not colored and shaped by some context. For those of you for whom it has already become obvious that all of your ways of being and acting are colored and shaped by some context, you still have to see if you can falsify what you think you already know and understand until it becomes something you've actually discovered for yourself. So what you want to do is discover for yourself that a context colors and shapes your way of being and acting. You need to discover that for yourself, so it doesn't live like in the stands, it lives for you on the court as lived. So in at least two different situations in your life, discover for yourself what would happen if your way of being and what would happen to your way of being and acting if you created a new context for each of those situations, each of the situations. Is this clear? Okay. Tell me when I can move on. So you may know conceptually that your way of being and acting is always colored or shaped by some concept. You may know that, but you want to run an experiment, see if you can disprove it. See if you can find an instance in which that doesn't hold. How important is context to your effectiveness and to your quality of life? To what degree are you cognizant of the context that is shaping your way of being and acting? We've given you these assignments not to increase your understanding of what we covered, but so that you can start to discover for yourself the totality of the power of a context to use you. Again, until you discover for yourself the power of a context to impact your way of being and acting, the context for leader and leadership you will create for yourself in the course won't leave you being a leader and exercising leadership effectively as your natural self-expression. You got that? Can I move on? Okay. So, now, we're into the next section. Now we're going to cover what it means to master something. Let me see what
sorry, can I have a question?
249, we need to go to 266. What?
So, when we discover this context, what we should do with it?
What will you do with it?
Yes, with the
Well,
context.
that's what we're going to find out. So, a context that uses you, we want to create for yourself. You want to create for yourself a context that uses you so that when anything in life comes at you, you are automatically, as your natural self-expression, that's what that means, being a leader and exercising leadership effectively, right, is a context that uses you.
Okay.
So you're not thinking about anything, you haven't memorized anything, you haven't, it's like you get on a bicycle and you go down the street and you balance and you didn't have to remember a darn thing, did you?
Okay.
It uses you. So this is why we're taking this whole time. So you want to get this stuff so that you can,
Create this context.
yeah, well, so the context uses you.
Okay.
Get it so that the context uses you. And it will use you if you do what is in the course experiments. Okay? So, we're going to cover what it means to master something. Mastery requires discovering for yourself, getting clarity about the following statement. A context has the power to shape the way a situation occurs for you, and that your way of being and that your actions are naturally correlated with the way in which that situation occurs for you. Right? When I threw that thing at you and you caught it, your actions were perfectly naturally correlated with the way the situation occurred for you. Yes? We're going to get leadership to occur for you in that way so that you, right? And you didn't think about it. Alright, so that's, alright, what it means to master something. Alright, we only have about 11 more slides and we have 30 minutes left, so we should do that easily. Alright, 25. We tick down. Alright, what it means to master something is to do what is required to make that something a part of who you are. Yeah? That is, a part of your natural self-expression is contrasted with it being something you know and understand, but must remember, or at least have some relationship in order to apply it. When you have mastered something, instead of you using it, what you have mastered, so to speak, uses you. A journeyman has done what she needs to do to use what works. By contrast, a master is used by what works. When you know and understand something new, you have expanded your function in the world. When you have mastered something, you have altered the world in which you function. About opening up a new world for oneself. Thomas Kuhn, the author of The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, in his groundbreaking transformational argument for the actual nature of opening up a new paradigm, had the following to say about what is at stake if one is committed to a new paradigm for oneself. Quote, there were parts of normal science and enterprise that, as we have already seen, aims to refine, extend, and articulate a paradigm that is already in existence. But that interpretive enterprise, normal science, can only articulate a paradigm, not correct it. Paradigms are not corrigible, changeable, by normal science at all. And these anomalies and crises that show up within the current paradigm are terminated not by deliberation and interpretation, but by a relatively sudden and unstructured event like the Gestalt switch. Scientists then often speak of the scales falling from the eyes, or of the lightning flash that inundates a previously obscure puzzle, enabling its components to be seen in a new way that for the first time permits its solution. No ordinary sense of the term interpretation fits these flashes of intuition through which a new paradigm is born. Now we're going to do it, show you what he just said in these examples. Kuhn provides an example of a shift in paradigm. In the then prevailing paradigm of alchemy, you know what alchemy is? And Joseph Priestley, yeah? Alchemy, that's when they thought they could change lead into gold by, yeah? Joseph Priestley. Huh? An alchemist, right? Joseph Priestley. He was an alchemist. He isolated a gas and he named it deflogisticated air. Deflogisticated air. Deflogisticated air. Deflogisticated air. He named it that. Deflogisticated air. While letting go of the prevailing paradigm of alchemy, right, Antoine Lavoisier discovered the same gas, but as oxygen, leading to a new world of chemistry. The shift of paradigm allowed Lavoisier to become the father of chemistry, and as a result to discover many new substances not available in the world of alchemy. Kuhn continues, Lavoisier, we said, saw oxygen where Priestley had seen deflogisticated air, and where others had seen nothing at all. And learning to see oxygen, however, Lavoisier also had to change his view of many other more familiar substances. He had, for example, to see a compound ore, where Priestley and his contemporaries had seen an elementary earth. And there were other such changes besides. At the very least, as the result of discovering oxygen, Lavoisier saw nature differently. And in the absence of some recourse to that hypothetically fixed nature that he saw differently, the principle of economy will urge us to say that after discovering oxygen, Lavoisier worked in a different world. Do we, however, really need to describe what separates Galileo from Aristotle, or Lavoisier from Priestley, as a transformation of vision? Did these men really see different things when looking at the same sorts of objects? Is there any legitimate sense in which we can say that they pursued their research in different worlds? Kuhn summed up his entire argument as follows. Though the world does not change with a change of paradigm, the scientist afterward works in a different world. This course, leadership course, is about you creating for yourself, discovering a paradigm that allows being a leader and the effective exercise of leadership to be your natural self-expression. By and large, the future of a person or other human entity is an extension of the past, of course allowing for chaos and complexity as they relate to humans and their entities. Note that for the most part, progress, change, is built on the past and is therefore an extension of the past, adding a brick to one's wall of bricks that fits with the existing bricks. Human beings and other human entities are predictable, or as Shakespeare noted, creeps in this petty pace. However, there are times when something intervenes and there is a discontinuous future, a future that is not a continuation of the past. As far as we can tell, there are only three things that intervene: accidents of behavior, nature when unpredictable, and language when it brings forth something that revises one's worldview, model of reality, or a frame of reference, mindset, or that revises one's context or the clearing that one is. Mastery requires discovering for yourself. What is that? We have made a very bold promise. Nobody promises that y'all are going to walk out of this course being leaders and exercising leadership effectively as their self-expression. And in our experience of having delivered the course multiple times, we guarantee that this promise will not be fulfilled for you as a result of any of the following. It will not be fulfilled as a result of it. If you do any of these following things, we guarantee that this course will not be fulfilled. You won't get it if any of these follow. You're getting clear on anything that we presented, having fabulous insights, thinking in new ways, having clever things to say to other people, understanding new models, theories, and information, role-playing scenarios, applying what is presented in this or that situation, and so forth. What makes it possible for us to make the promise of this course is you discovering for yourself what is presented in this course.
That's all.
Discovering for yourself. What you learn, what you figure out, and what you understand is wonderful, but does not become a part of your natural self-expression. If you are like us, by the time you were 5 years old, your mother taught you everything you needed to know to be a decent human being, and hopefully you're not like us in that the knowledge she told us made no difference in our behavior. In any case, if knowledge equated to natural self-expression, every professor would be at the top of the game of that which they profess. Your economics professor would be a billionaire. Moreover, even people who are highly successful are, for the most part, unable to talk about their success in a way that makes that success available to anyone else. What we don't see is their success is more likely a product of what they discovered for themselves, and therefore, if we are to be successful on the basis on which they were successful, we would have to discover for ourselves what they discovered for themselves. When you discover for yourself what there is to discover, as contrasted with when you take someone else's discovery and learn and apply it like knowledge, the results in your life will be surprising. What is meant by discovering for yourself? What is presented in this course is analogous to a pointing finger. What it points to is what there is for you to discover for yourself. Don't get fixated or even fascinated by the pointing finger. Rather, engage, try on for yourself, or where required, actually create for yourself what the finger points to. During the course, we will clarify and make fully accessible for you what is meant by try on for yourself and create for yourself. Dictionary definition of discover. To find out, learn of the existence of, realize. Synonym comparison. Discover implies a finding out by chance, exploration, etc. of something already existing or known to others. Antonym, miss, pass by, overlook. The only way to be effective in mastering what is on the court is to discover what is on the court for yourself. For most of us, what we have mastered has been mastered from the stands. That is, we have mastered concepts and accurate descriptions of what is going on down on the court. You can master what it is to be a leader and what it is to exercise leadership effectively as these show up from the stands, or you can master being a leader and exercising leadership effectively as these exist on the court. The only access to being a leader and to the actions of effective exercise of leadership as they exist on the court is to discover for yourself leader and leadership as they exist on the court. This will be challenging and will require intellectual effort and emotional courage. We realize that what we are asking you to do is not easy and may even occur for you as difficult, disquieting, uncomfortable, and in some cases, even threatening. It often takes courage to do what we ask. Many people never challenge themselves in taking on something they find disquieting or uncomfortable because it threatens their worldview, model of reality, or one of their frames of reference, mindset. However, if you are to master being the leader and the effective exercise of leadership, you must fully embrace the process required to do so and accept any discomfort experienced along the way. So, this is where we will begin tomorrow. So what about that? Now it's your turn to
Like Matrix.
talk to me, huh?
It's like Matrix.
It's like the Matrix.
Yeah, you need to choose and to get out of your comfort zone to be what you.
Exactly,
Yeah,
it is.
comfort.
Mm-hmm. You're in the matrix of leader and leadership. That's right. You know, did the guy in the Matrix actually choose to be in the Matrix, or did the Matrix kind of choose him?
The Matrix chooses.
The Matrix chose him. Yeah.
But he can choose not to be in the Matrix.
Huh?
But he can choose not to be in the
But
Matrix.
and he can choose not to be in the Matrix. Okay. What? Do you know what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, what's so funny?
Yes, I forget what it
Huh?
was. It's okay. I just forget about this movie and.
She reminded you?
Yes.
Okay. She's sitting there like, I didn't do anything. Don't look at me. That's, by the way, that's an already always listening. I didn't do it.
But I did a good job.
Don't blame me. I
There
didn't
is
say
nothing
it.
to be blamed.
Huh?
There is nothing to be blamed. I did a good job. I explained to you.
Okay, alright. What else? How much more time? 10 minutes, okay. So, talk to me. Any yeah, but how about, what if, how come?
Talk to us.
Huh?
I just explained him like so. Because I have missed some material.
You missed something?
Yeah, about that we need to work about to discover our own strategy of being successful. Because a successful person can tell us every step what to do, and it will won't work because it is his strategy. And we need to make our own that will work for us.
Yes.
Or we can take those strategy, but we need to discover it by ourselves.
Yes, yes, yes.
And he missed that, and I just explained.
Yeah. Very good, yes. Yeah, we have not discovered how to teach wealth generation and pass it on, right? Some people become wealthy, and it remains obscure and difficult to pass on to somebody else. Now, you know, Napoleon Hill wrote this book, Think and Grow Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And it's the bestseller, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many people have read it? Like
Million.
millions and millions, yes? But have millions and millions become rich like that?
They
No. So there's something about being able to transfer knowledge. It's not transferred by epistemological, you know, epistemology, that's all the writing stuff, right? It's not transferable by that. Leadership is not transferable by reading about leadership stuff. Yeah?
Yes. I didn't.
I would do it. She did it. It's an already always listening, right?
Yeah.
So, what are you guys seeing so far?
Let's just show some examples for us.
It's just because
by the way, it's not a problem that you're really, that you're tickled pink. This is, you often see this in working in, we're working in a transformational conversation. And people lighten up about things and they get like, the significance of life starts to leak out. It starts to leak out. And when the significance leaks out, people start having smiles on their face and having fun. So it's not a bad sign. You're not interrupting anything. I would be worried if you didn't. Do you understand?
Yes.
No, it is just a problem of 5 handsome men sitting in front.
What?
It is just a problem of 5 handsome men sitting in front of them there.
5 what?
This is a
Handsome
problem,
man.
yeah, you're right.